Before I can show you how to set up an analysis in SolidWorks, I just want to give you a brief reminder of how to create an object, a solid object in SolidWorks. Because that's the first step of doing an analysis in SolidWorks. You have to have a solid object. And the solid object that I'm going to create is this one that's shown right here. And this is the one we're also going to do the analysis on, but I want to create this and show you the steps of creating this first in order to illustrate how to do this. I also have the drawings of it here with the dimensions on, so we'll be able to use these dimension drawings to get the correct dimensions to create that object. So let me return to the solid modeling portion first. Now, the first step you would do, of course, is to start up SolidWorks. And then once you start up SolidWorks, you're going to want to create a new part. So I'm going to go File, New, and the thing we want to do is create a new part. And this will allow us to create a new place to make our new part, if SolidWorks doesn't take too long. So we'll need to think about how we want to create this part. We'll need to step through kind of our process. And we'll do that by, I'll go back to the drawing and we'll kind of look at the drawing to figure out how we want to create this process we want to go through. So we see we have kind of this curve here. There's a hole there, and then there's a little piece up there, a little boss there sticking out. So there's various ways you could do this. The method I'm going to decide is to draw this little J shape here and make that first. So I'm going to make this bottom first, and then I'm going to add the circular bit around the top. I'll put the boss on, then put the hole on, and finally I'll do this fillet. That's kind of often the fillets are the last thing to go. Now, there's different ways you could do this. This is not the only way to do this, but it's often easiest if you have some shape, kind of complicated shape that's been swept or extruded. It's often easiest to start with that face and extrude that, because then you get most of the geometry done immediately. So I'm going to start by creating a feature. The feature I'm going to do is an extruded boss or base. This is the first feature I want to create. Almost always the first feature you're going to want to create is going to be extruded boss or base or revolved boss or base. I'm going to pick the extruded because that's what I want. I don't have anything symmetric here, so I'm going to do it extruded. And now I have to pick the plane I want to draw that on. And I think I'm going to go with the front face because I'm going to extrude back. That's my plan. And this immediately brings up the the place where I can now work to create the sketch. So the first thing I have to do is create the sketch in order to draw this. Oh, but before I even do that, I should make sure I've set my units. So to do that, I go to Tools. Down under Tools is Options. Options. I'm going to go to Document Properties, Units, and I want to do in inches, pounds, and seconds. That's the units I'm going to draw this. This drawing's in inches, so I'm going to use inches, pounds, and seconds. And we say OK. Now I have the correct units set up. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is kind of draw the general shape. I don't need to get the dimensions right. I'll do that later. And I'm not even going to get the shape exactly right. I think I'll add the circles later. So let me just draw a square, kind of an L shape. So I'll come across here, up here, horizontal, and then I'm going to come to about here, up, over. Now notice when I line up this point, it lines up with that point where I started, and I think I want to do that because I want that to be straight up and down. So I'll click there, and then click down here. And now I've got the shape. Now, of course, it's not exactly right. First of all, the dimensions aren't right. Secondly, I'm missing my circular arcs. Let me first get the dimensions right. So I'll go to Smart Dimension, and I will click here, and that will give me a dimension. Wow, 29.53 inches. This thing's really big. Well, that's too big. It shouldn't be that big. So let's change it to the correct dimension, which, I go look at the drawing, is 2 inches. So I say 2 inches, and now I get this is scaled. You notice it kind of scaled everything else based on its best guess, because we haven't given the other dimensions yet. So now we should give the other dimensions. Well, I can give the height of this little piece here. So I'll click there, and I'll click, oops, sorry, I need the Smart Dimension. Click there and there. And this is supposed to be 0.5, so I'll enter that. This leg is also supposed to be 0.5. So I know that there. And then what am I missing? Oh, the overall height. Yep, I don't have that yet. So I need this overall height, which is supposed to be, I don't remember. I'm going to have to go back and look at my drawing a second. Let's go back to look at the drawing. Here's the drawing that I need. And the overall height looks like it's 2.5 to there. Because remember, I'm drawing just the bottom part. Then I'm going to add the circle at the top later. Okay, because that's not really extruded. That's a different shape. Oop, I don't want that one. And now 2.5. So now I have this shape, and I think I've completely defined the shape. Oh, yes, I forgot. There's a little circular arcs. So now there's different ways you could do this. One is to put in circles. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for one. So I'm going to put in this circle, and I'm going to say, okay, so I want to add a circle here. So I'm going to set it there, and oh, there we go. That's good. And now I want to set the dimension of that circle. That has a radius of 0.5. It's a full circle, so SolidWorks is going to want the diameter. So I'll put in 1. That's the diameter. Now here's a little bit of a problem. See, this is fine. That did what I wanted to do there, but here it isn't right. Right? It should be tangent there, right? It shouldn't be this, intersecting there. Well, to do that, to fix that, what I'm going to have to do is to add a relationship. So SolidWorks will automatically add relationships based on what its best guess is. But if you don't get any close, then it's not going to try to do that. But we can always add a relation later. So I'm going to add a relation here. And what I want to do is I want this circle. So I'm going to click that circle. And this line. Oops, I don't need that one dimension. I don't need that. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm pushing the delete button to get that out of there. I want that circle and that line to be tangent. And now tangent. Okay, that's what I want. So that's one way I could put that circular arc in there. The other way I could do this is to use a sketch fillet. And this is a fillet, which is a circular arc there. And I'm going to click on this, and then I'll click here on the corner. I don't want a sketch fillet like that. Well, oh, I already have one selected here. Let me get rid of that one. I'm going to click on this corner, and you see it already says, okay, I'm going to put a fillet in there. Now, this fillet is not 0.1. That's actually an inch radius. So I'll put an inch in there. And now I've got that sketch, that corner there. So now I've got my geometry defined. Mostly, there's a little bit of an issue here because I want this part, but not that part. We'll deal with that, okay? So we'll say, okay, that sketch fillet. Before we do anything else, though, we've completed our sketch. Before we say our sketch is complete, you want to make sure that this says down to the bottom. Sorry, you can't quite see it here. Fully defined. All sketches should be fully defined before you do any extrusion or anything like that with them. The fully defined tells you you've specified everything and there isn't some dimension missing. So make sure all sketches are fully defined. Now we're ready to extrude this piece, and we'll do that by exiting the sketch. So you come here as I exit sketch, and now we'll get the extrusion window because we had told it earlier we wanted to extrude it, right? Now I'm going to extrude this. I want to extrude this a certain dimension, so that's blind. There's other options. You can go up to a vertex if we had a spot we wanted to extrude to, up to a surface, some surface, offset from the surface, up to a body in the mid-plane. We're just going to extrude blind here, and I want to extrude it by 3 inches because that's how wide my piece is. So this is 3 inches I'm going to extrude. Now here's a problem. First of all, I don't like that direction. I want to extrude the other way, so I'm going to turn it around and extrude backwards. Second thing is, because we don't have a completed sketch, it doesn't know how to extrude this. We have this sketch, but it has circles and there's parts and there's missing. So right now, it doesn't really know what to do. If you have a complete sketch that has no extra pieces in it, it will say, okay, that's it. It will do it correctly, and you'll know immediately. You won't have to change anything. But in this case, we have to pick what contour we want to have extruded. So I'll get rid of that, sketch 1, and then I'll come along here and I'll select this, I want that, and that. Oh, nope, didn't want the circle. That was wrong. Let's get rid of that. And I don't want that. I want this, and I better zoom in a little bit, and this triangular region in there. That's what I want extruded. So now I get the piece I want, and there's the base piece now that I'm starting from. So my next step is going to be to add this little circular bit at the top here. Okay, and I'm going to do that by extruding too, but now in a different direction. I'm going to extrude in the thickness direction here. So we'll go back to my part that I'm working on. I'm going to, again, I'm going to do a feature. I'm going to do extruded boss, a base, and I have to pick the surface. Now I could pick this side or I could pick this side. Doesn't really matter. I guess I'll pick this side. We'll pick that there. And now what I want to extrude is going to be a circle. And this time I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm going to make sure I get my relations automatic so I don't have to put them in. I can always put them in, but if I do it carefully at the beginning, then I don't have to worry about it. So you see now it's telling me that it's going to put this center at the midpoint of that line, and that's what I want. So we'll start there. And then when I come out here, SolidWorks is saying, hey, if you put that there, I'm going to line that point up with that circle, with that point, and that's what I want. And now I have completed that circle, and you'll notice already my sketch is fully defined. Because that center is forced to be at the center of this line, that point has to go through there, so that's done. So I'm fully defined already. So now I can exit from this sketch and extrude. And in this case, oh, I do not want to extrude that way. That is the wrong way. It always goes the wrong way. I don't know why. But I want to extrude that way. And I think we could do blind and just say, you know, it's a ½ inch. But we can also use some of these other features. We could extrude up to a surface. The nice thing about this, and I'll pick this surface here as extrude, how far I want to extrude up to. So I have to pick here, you know, oops, sorry, still in blind. Up to surface. And I pick here, the direction is already set. I'm going to pick here the face or plane I want to extrude to, and it's going to be that face there. And now it extruded that far. The nice thing about doing this is if I go back later and decide, you know, ½ inch I don't really like, this will automatically change that to match that. And that's probably what I want. That was my design intent. You also will notice that the circle is overlapping with what I did before. Don't care. It's not going to make twice the material there. So if that's easier, just extrude over something that's already there. So we say, okay, and now we get this bit of it. For my next step, I think what I'll do is, oops, let's go to the window. I think what I'm going to do is add that little boss that's sticking out 1/8 of an inch there. So that sticks out 1/8 of an inch from the back there. So let's add that on. Again, we'll probably want to do a extruded base boss. That's what we want to do. I want to go from this face. Again, if I'm careful, that's just centered right on there. If I'm careful, I might not have to. It looks like it's not going to let me do it this time. I might have to force that. So we need a boss on here, about there. We'll say that circle's okay. That's definitely not the right spot. We'll have to fix that. And where do we want, how big is that thing? It's 1.5 inches. So that's the size we're going to make that circle. So we will put a smart dimension there. And we'll say that's 1.5 inches now, because that's what they're supposed to be. And now I'd like to have that right in the center of that thing. It didn't happen automatically this time. I don't know why. Not sure why. But that's okay. We'll just add a relationship. We'll say this circle and this circle should be concentric. And now that circle is exactly where I want it. Are we fully defined? Yes, fully defined. Exit the sketch. And we want to go, oh, it's got the right direction this time. Well, that's amazing. It's 1/8 of an inch. So you could type in the fractions, or you can just put 1/8, and we'll handle that quite fine. And now we'll add that boss. And now that boss is complete. So let's go ahead and put the hole in now. So this is, again, is another feature. This time, though, it's not an extruded boss. We're actually going to do a whole cut, extruded cut. So we will select that. This face, I want a hole. Let's see if I can get this to automatic. Nope, we're still not going to do automatic. Okay. So we'll draw a hole there. We are now done with the circle. Smart dimension, this is a 3/4 inch hole. Wow, I got it exactly right. There's no way. Nope, not. That's right. No way. It's close to 2 decimal points might be okay, but not exact. And you always need to make sure you put the dimensions in. Don't just hope they're right. So we'll get rid of that. Then we're done in the smart dimension. We'll have to add a relationship again to make this concentric. Yep, I don't got the right thing selected, so that doesn't help. I'm selecting that, hitting delete. Select that circle, and that edge, and I want those to be concentric, and there, put it right in the right spot. So now I am fully defined sketch. I will now exit that sketch, and now it knows I want to do a hole because I told it earlier. And we have options here again. We can either go blind, which means we go to that depth, an 1/8 inch depth if we want to do that, but that's not what I want. I really want to go through all. So I want to go through everything because this hole goes all the way through everything. So go through all. And again, the advantage of doing through all as opposed to blind to this depth is that if I change this, now that will still be through all. There'll still be a hole there, even if I decide later to change this thickness. Okay, the last step now I have to have in here. I think I've got everything. Let's look at the drawing again. Yeah, anything, but there is a little fillet there. That's this a radius of 0.1. So there's a little fillet there that goes all the way around that boss. Now, the easiest way, I showed you how to do a sketch fillet earlier. That was this we use for here, though that's a little pushing it to call that a fillet, but we did anyway. But this one's a little harder to do that way because it goes around a circle. It's hard to think of how to draw a fillet that way. But fillets are so common that SolidWorks has given you a special tool, and that's called a fillet. And if you click on this as a 3D fillet, as opposed to the sketch fillet we did earlier, if you click on this, you can now select the edge where you want that fillet to occur. It doesn't have to be straight. It could be round. Okay, so I want this fillet there, and oh, here's where I would put the radius. I already somehow got it right. So that's already there, and so we'll say okay now, and that completes our fillet. And now our part is completely done. So our part's done, and the way you create these parts is you use features, build it up feature by feature. Typically the extruded boss is one we'll use a lot, extruded cut we'll use a lot. If you have circular kinds of things, you can use a revolve base, a boss, and a resolve cut. Hole Wizard gives you special holes. I don't tend to use that one too often. I tend to build them up. And there's some other features for special kinds of surfaces, but just building up a bit from extruded boss and base and extruded cut and maybe even revolve boss and base and revolve cut, you can make just about any part you want to make by just thinking about how to combine. Plan out how you're going to do it. Plan, I'm going to add this, then add that, and then this. That's a good thing to do, so you kind of plan the best way. It's tough once you get started. Sometimes you can build yourself into a corner. Better to think about it beforehand. The other thing I want to emphasize is make sure your sketches are fully defined. That way, any changes that you might want to make later are not going to be unpredictable. You'll know what to expect and nothing will surprise you.